The chapter average age was probably north of 65, maybe north of 75. And it just did not seem to be sustainable. A number of the members had stopped flying, and we needed some youth and some great energy.
And you were just the guy to do it.
Well, I don't know about that, but anyway.
Well, Oliver's been in the air for many, many thousands of hours as a commercial pilot as a career. So the plane got going. How did you decide to build an airplane?
I had always wanted to build something just for fun, and it just seemed like a good way to reinvigorate the chapter, introduce youth. I believed in giving back, and so I also believe that if you order it, they will come. So we ordered a tail kit, and people just started coming out of the woodwork. It was really a great community effort.
Well, it sure paid off, because 4 years later the plane flew, and we'll look at lots of pictures of that later on in this video.
Hello, my name is Bill Warner, and when Oliver asked me if I would help build this plane, I said, Oliver, I have flown them, but I have never built one. And he said, don't worry, we'll figure it out. And we did. We adopted a ready, fire, aim approach, figuring we'd learn a lot more about what we didn't know by getting started than if we tried to plan it all out ahead of time. But it turned out to be a complicated project. We needed a place to build. We needed an organization. Parts would arrive in boxes. We had to inventory them. Then we had to put them together in a quality way, get them assembled. Quality was a big part of this build project. We need to finance the plane too, because the chapter couldn't own it when it flew. So as you will see in later parts of the video, and people will attest, that chapter members stepped up. The plane flew in September 2020, not quite 4 years after we started the build. And now, in early 2021, chapter age is down significantly. Membership has doubled. We have about 25 young aviators participating in various projects the chapter has undertaken. And in short, chapter 20 is vigorous and thriving. In the next few minutes, you will meet the people who made all this happen, the mentors and the young aviators. And we hope you have as much fun watching this as we did building the plane.
So tell us about that.
So this really was a lot of fun for me. It was a great group to work with. It was fun just learning new skills. Yeah, there were people that had a lot to contribute, and we all learned from each other.
So how did you know when you made a mistake, or did you have some issues that you had to redo? Or?
So we made plenty of mistakes, and we knew we'd make mistakes. Initially, again, when we're first building, learning, it was easy. You just order a new part from Vans and you just do it over again. But that's a good question. At what point, how did we understand what's acceptable and what's unacceptable from the point of view of pieces and parts? And that was something that was experience. It just, you just had to dive in and start building, and we learned. And there were people that we called upon that supported us. We had experienced builders that would come in and review what we were doing. But there was just a host of other places that we learned. We went to sport aviation workshops. The build manual, section 5, is enormously valuable. It explains in detail how to do things.
And Sam was one of the early people joining the build in an engineering background, and helped us with a lot of critical decisions along the way. And I know one of them, Sam, was that there were some upgrades available by Vans when we were about halfway through the build. Tell us about those.
That's exactly right, Bill. About halfway through our fuselage build, we learned that Vans was coming out with a brand new fuselage, one that would allow us to have a fuel-injected engine to our V12 build. Well, we had already put in money, and so we really started building that fuselage, and so some of us were a little bit hesitant to go that route, to basically restart the fuselage. We gathered around, and after talking, we realized that the main driver for us building this airplane was that it's our passion and that we wanted to build this. Because we wanted to build it exactly how we wanted it, we decided to go for the new fuel-injected fuselage.
Sounds like it was a good decision.
I think it was a great decision, honestly. We are enjoying that fuel-injected engine. I think we're about 150 hours on that airframe right now.
So the United hangar in San Francisco, I forget who organized it exactly, but it was pretty fantastic. That's where they do all the maintenance for the United airline jets, and they've got like massive composite ovens and like huge shop floors, and it's a really fantastic thing to be able to see, because it's just kind of like, oh, these big fantastic machines actually have human beings working on them, and they're like a kind of living structure that you have to engage with it in a meaningful way to keep those things operational. So that was really rad.
I'll bet. It makes you appreciate how easy it is to get from here to wherever.
Yeah.
Now, you also went to Oshkosh, and tell folks a little bit about what Oshkosh means. It's in Wisconsin, of course.
Oh yeah, sure. So Oshkosh, or AirVenture in Oshkosh, is a week-long convention that the EAA does. It's tens of thousands of people. It's primarily a fly-in, so you get a lot of people, flying in and then camping next to their planes, and then you get people who drive in from just about everywhere, and anyone who's anybody in aviation is there. You have, airlines, you have new companies that are starting up building these new fantastic, like experimental sort of aircraft that hopefully we'll see in the skies sometime later. And then you've got like old warbirds and stuff and ultralights. It's just everything from everywhere. And it's...
You were there when they did the 1 week wonder?
Yeah, I was.
That was an RV-12, right?
That was an RV-12, and I didn't get to go and do that because unfortunately I was only there for 2 days, and there's just like so much stuff going on. It's like the Disneyland of airplane stuff. So, but it was really cool because there were about 200 people, and they had this kind of big tent thing. It's just people kind of putting together little sub-assemblies, and they put together an RV-12 in, a week, which is
wow,
damn fast.
Now, I remember, too, that plane landed here at San Carlos.
Yes.
You were looking at the wing. There were a bunch of signatures or names. Was your name on there?
No, my name wasn't on there because it would have been if I had, stuck around and popped a couple rivets in the thing, but it was really busy when I walked by, so I didn't get to.
Well, you at least got to see it fly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's terrific.
All right,
Terrific.
awesome. Thanks, people.
So tell us a little bit about how the chapter couldn't own the airplane because of insurance reasons and blah, blah, blah. So we had to have somebody buy that airplane. So how did we work that out?
Thanks, Bill. Just a little bit of background. Chapter 20 came up with this idea of building an experimental aircraft. As you said, the Vans RV-12. And actually, the idea came from you, Bill, and Oliver to get the thing started. And that was the very beginning. It was as if you turned on a very bright porch light on a warm summer evening, and the moths just started homing in on the brightness. I was just one of those moths. And so as I arrived, one of the things I learned early on is chapters of the EAA cannot own an airplane, but they can sponsor one. So the leaders of the build team created the Flying 12 Club, and that is how we transitioned to an ownership group. And in the 2018 timeframe, the leaders had already assembled a really solid set of builders, some engineers, some other adults, some young aviators, and they were the backbone of the build. Almost every Saturday we had more people show up. Some were just lookers, some were very interested in joining the build, and so they did. In 2018, we had to transition from being interested builders to being committed builders. And the reason is we had some bills that were coming due, especially for the big ticket items like engine and avionics. And so a number of the interested builders became committed builders. They put up $10,000 in equity. We agreed that the initial fees would be $50 an hour flying the airplane wet, and about $130 a month for administrative fees. At about the same time, we were really fortunate to get some other shots in the arm. The Hartman family decided to donate enough money to buy a seat on the airplane with the stipulation that it would be reserved for training young pilots. At about the same time, EAA headquarters had committed to give us a $10,000 grant upon us getting our airworthiness certificate. So the money started to arrive almost on cue, and it helped us finish the job. You know, I could say that the whole process was due to strong leadership, good discipline, lots of encouragement, and all that's true, but it also is in no small part due to really good fortune.
Jack, tell us how you got involved with aviation.
Yeah, so when I was a sophomore in high school, I was trying to figure out sort of some of the things that I was interested in doing as a career, and one of the things that I had always been interested in was aerospace. And so I wanted to figure out a way to get more involved, maybe more hands-on before going to college to see if I, really wanted to pursue that as a career. And I found through the internet the Chapter 20 EAA club down here at San Carlos. And so I decided to attend one of their meetings. I came down and attended one of the meetings, and at the end of the meeting, I ended up in a conversation with a few of the members, including Oliver, who was the president at the time. And at the end of the conversation, they invited me to come work on the RV-12 that they had just started building in Oliver's hangar. And so I came down a week later and joined that first part of the build, and after that night I kept coming back every week for the next 3 years to work on the RV-12. And about halfway through, the club was actually granted a portion of the Ray Scholarship to send one of their young aviators to flight school, and I applied to the club for that scholarship and I got it. And after that I also started my flight training, which I am currently working on wrapping up actually this year. One of the moments of the build that I'll remember for a long time is the one night we were working on the rudder, and we needed to make these little tabs that held these like two pieces of aluminum clamping together around a bearing for the vertical stabilizer. And I had been coming to the build now probably for a few months, maybe a month or two, and I was just handed the instruction page for these two tabs and said, go make this, and was told to go make that without, basically without supervision. It was a really powerful moment because I was being trusted as a pretty young person at the time to make a very critical component of the aircraft just completely on my own. And so I think I'll always kind of remember that.
I noticed in some of the pictures later on that the tail number was November 962 Tango Foxtrot. What is the significance of that?
Tim Foley is Tango Foxtrot. He was a long-time EAA Chapter 20 member, vice president for virtually forever. He always wanted to fly 1,000 Young Eagles. This is in the 90s when the Young Eagle program started and continued for many years. But Tim only got to 962, very close to his goal of 1,000 before he stopped flying. So we did 962 in memory of his numbers and TF for Tim Foley.
Well, we've actually had 2 or 3 young aviators, 3 now. Okay, that's terrific.
That's also partly due to the Ray Aviation Scholarship from EAA that has funded 2 of those 3 scholarships.
Excellent. Well, we're here with Thomas Carlson in Oliver's hangar, and Thomas came to us about midway through the build, and he had built an airplane with his father, an RV-12 with his father, and actually flown it to Oshkosh. So he came with some experience, and it was extraordinarily valuable for us. So tell us a little bit about the characteristics of this airplane.
It is a fantastic plane. Just flies really easy. Easy to fly, easy to control. Gets good gas mileage. My dad and I worked on that plane in his garage. I would go up there for vacation and just work in the week. He had a 3-car garage. And then it was really fun. He would come down from Boise. He lives in Boise, Idaho. He'd come all the way down from Boise.
Down to where?
Down to San Jose area.
San Jose, okay.
Yeah. And then he'd hang out at my house for that night, and then we would head east. So we'd get in the plane and just head east. The only goal that we had was to have as much fun as possible. Fantastic views of Lake Tahoe, just fantastic. And then as we headed east, just all the different airports that we got to land at were just a good experience, just navigating, trying to figure things out. And then it's also just fun to just look outside. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
Well, that's terrific. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You bet.
Caden, tell us how you got interested in airplanes and coming to the builds.
So when I was little and when I grew up, my house was under the 2-8 departures of SFO, so every night I would hear the 7-4s and whatever tri-jets that they had at the time departing over my house at 1 o'clock. I would lay in bed and be like, I want to be one of those guys. And also my aunt did weight and balance for airliner.
Well, that's good. So what are the kinds of things that you did once you kind of got hooked by these planes flying overhead?
Well, I started looking around, seeing if I could get flight lessons, got connected with EAA, and then found out about this build program. And I joined the build, and my life is pretty much set from there.
What were a highlight or two from the build, things that you're gonna remember for the rest of your life?
Highlight would be probably unboxing the avionics and placing the plane down on its main wheels for the first time.
That's pretty exciting. Well, I know that you started lessons too. Are you flying in the plane that the RB-12 that we built?
Yes, and it flies great.
Yeah, glass cockpits are really pretty nice, aren't they?
Yeah.
Any plans going forward? What you might do with your career?
Probably aiming for commercial. Just try to take up threads, give back to the community as soon as I get my license.
The plane could not fly here at San Carlos until it had 5 hours. So where did you get the first 5 hours on it?
We trailed it, trucked it down to Hollister, and flew the first flight out of there. I was along on that ride, and it was completely uneventful. It was just a great airplane build.
Well, that's a testament to the quality that went in along the way. How do you get an airworthiness certificate? What happened then?
Well, so this required focus, this build. This is something that, you're not building a motorcycle or a car, you're building an airplane at once. So what we did, we did a little QC exercise at the very end. It was tedious, it was time consuming. So that gave us a lot of confidence.
Excellent.
But then we had the inspection, the FAA inspector, DAR, that came in, and he spent 2.5 hours very closely inspecting our airplane. And after he finished that inspection, gave us the airworthiness certificate, I asked him, so how does our airplane compare with other airplanes that you inspected? And he's inspected hundreds of airplanes. He said, this is an awesome build. So that made us feel pretty good.
Yeah,
that made us feel pretty good.
Well, that is a wonderful high note to leave this on. Thank you for coming by and sitting in the hot seat.
All right.
Anything that stands out in your own mind about your experience building an airplane?
Well, Bill, in my early career in the Air Force, I was an Air Force instructor pilot, as you said, and it was a formative part of my life. What I learned in that experience are values that I still carry today. It's work hard, it's play hard, it's friends, it's family, it's community. And I carried those same values through my industrial life and industrial career. But when I got out of the bulk of my industrial career in 2018, I came to learn about this group of people that were building this airplane. It was so exciting to get back in and work with a group of pilots because the camaraderie was almost automatic for me. And it was that way in the beginning, and it's something I treasure still today.